Hey everybody, I'm sitting here with Deb Warren. Deb is our mentor of many years. Deb spent lots of time traveling across Canada, teaching people about CE5, how to make contact, and we're so thankful to you for that and all of the phone calls and emails where you've supported us over the years because you have done quite a lot for us in our group.
You too.
So thank you.
You've done a lot too.
Thank you. So Deb has, so what is it that you're going to be doing?
I want to talk about my 10 best contact experiences.
Okay, so Deb is going to tell us all about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So part of the reason I want to do this, Celia, is because it's been my experience that when people come to contact, everybody pretty much wants to do the same thing. They want to see ETs land in a ship, come out and say, hi, how are you? And then have a meaningful conversation with them. And then those people want to be the ones who go to the media, the newspapers and the YouTube and everything. And they want us to tell everybody what happens. And so what I want to give you a sense of is that I've attended 13 week-long CSETI trainings. And so you pay somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 Canadian to go to a Stephen Greer training. They last a week. And what happens is a few seconds of amazing. And so you're often thinking, okay, was this worth, $4,000? And in my estimation, it is worth it, but not everybody can afford that. So I just want to give people a heads up of what has happened in my experiences and just give you a sense of what happens. The overall thing to understand is that you may not get to meet ETs in person, but what you do get to do is meet a lot of really interesting people like you and like Lois and like the other Dan you could all met. That seems to be the critical thing rather than focusing on ETs. And of course, people are coming together to have peaceful contact with ETs. And it's like they're committed to that. So that's unique. And that's what's really special about the experience. But everybody's there for the showy stuff, the lights in the sky and everything. So that's what I want to give a sense. So I've got some images I've copied off the internet and are on my website, but I don't like to hold that back. I'm just going to give them to you all in one section and try to use this with the camera. So CSETI, I've done 13 of those trainings, and Emery Smith was present for 6 of the ones I attended. But what happens is he attended a few that I didn't attend, and the usual practice with Stephen Greer was that Stephen Greer would see something, he'd point to it, and then what would happen is that Emery would point the camera and he would get the image. So here's the main image he's known for. And this is the light being image. And so this is about 10 inches tall on the beach at Boca Raton in 2010. So another image they got at the same time was a group of people. Let's see. You can kind of see this sliver of light or snake of light going through. Now what happened is I witnessed this in one of the stories I'm going to talk about, which is why I'm saying this. So this was the sliver of light in Boca Raton, Florida in 2010. And so again, what's happening with Emery Smith is Greer is talking, he's seeing something happening, and then Emery is behind his camera and he's saying, please give me permission to record your image. He may see it, he may not see it, but you're asking permission of the beings to record them, and you have a sincere desire for peaceful contact. So that's the main thing you have to understand. Do you have a question?
When you say he may see it or he may not see it, you mean through the camera.
Right, exactly. And a lot of times what I do when I'm taking my pictures, I don't even look at, I put it on infinity, and I'm just pointing it at the camera. Stephen Greer says something's there. Okay, I don't see anything. I just point it, and then I go into kind of a meditation mode and say, please allow me to record the image. And then I look after, usually it's a 4-second shutter speed, it's pitch dark, you can't see anything. And then you open up, you look at the image, and then you see whether there's anything on there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, all right, so here's exactly what happened. This is 2008. In Oracle, Arizona, and this doesn't look like much, but it was pitch dark, and I've messed around with the contrast and everything. And so it's actually an ET being with a kind of a triangle pink head and a white, wearing white, a robe with a sash. Stephen Greer in his new documentary he's making right now, he's going to make a really big deal about this particular image. What's important to understand, it was taken by a Hollywood producer whose first name is Michael, and he all week had been messing around with camera equipment, like really fancy camera equipment, and we just kept telling him, it doesn't matter, the device doesn't matter. What matters is your consciousness. You have to point the camera, and then you ask permission to record the image. And so he'd been messing around with really fancy equipment all week, and then all of a sudden he just gave up on that and just picked up his digital SLR, and then he put it on, and he just pointed it, and he just asked permission, and finally the image appeared. And there was somebody sitting in front of that being who had a lifelong hearing problem. And the next day he came and told us that he was cured of that hearing problem. He was in tears, sobbing the entire time. And so that's going to be a feature element of Stephen Greer's upcoming film documentary that's going to be released in December of 2019. So, all right, so here's another one. This is a classic Lightship triangle disc with kind of a little antenna on top. This is taken on Australia. It's right off the CSETI website, but I had something happen at Mount Shasta that was very similar, so it's important to know what that image is like. Okay, here are my images starting from 2017. So you can kind of see that, you kind of make out that there's gray, there's actually green laser light, and there's this sphere. This definitely has dimension. It's a 3-dimensional sphere. Okay, now what happened was that here's the longer version of it. So you can see that Stephen Greer is the only one allowed to have a laser. And there was something about it that happened where there's always bugs flying in or dust or something, and you're seeing reflections off the dust, but there was something about this where it was extraordinarily bright. And so what I decided was, I'm just going to point the camera, lock it off on infinity, and then again, please give me permission to record your image. And this is what occurred. And it just seemed to me that the reflection was much brighter than it should have been. So that's why I just had it was like an internal message or a telepathic message. You can take a picture of this. And I was responding to that. And that's what happened there. So that was 2017 in Oracle, Arizona. Here's another situation. This is, in this case, these bits of light look like water droplets. Again, it's pitch dark, you're zoomed into infinity, and then there are two things to see in this. There's this blue light here, which is kindness, the kindness ship, and then there's this companion, and you can kind of see it's white with two blue beans on the other side. Now, stars, when you're zoomed in, stars look like this, okay? So what happened here is that Stephen Greer said kindness has arrived. She's in that part of the sky, and she's usually got blue soft light around her. I looked, there was nothing. I didn't see anything. I just moved the telephoto lens into that part of the sky and then hit the remote on the camera, and I said, please appear, give me permission to take your image. And when I looked, I had to zoom in on that, and I could see it was obviously different than all the other stars. Wow. And again, I did not see it. So a lot of times these things happen so quickly that the human eye does not catch them.
Can you describe what kindness is? Because you called it a ship and
right. So Dr. Greer tells this story many, many times. In 1998, he had skin cancer, metastatic skin cancer, and Sherry Adamak, his colleague, who he depended on for camaraderie, also came down with breast cancer. And what happened is that he survived it, and she passed away in January of 1998. At the moment of her passing, Dr. Greer said that this being, kindness, came in and was present. And he could see she has 5 feet tall, big round head, bald, blue eyes, and she was the essence of kindness. So she was coming in, and on a CSETI training, she will often appear in an eastern sky. If there is blue, like a blue diamond light, that's usually an indication that that is her. Now, have you seen her? Have you ever seen her? Yeah. So he will frequently identify her. I've seen her on my own a few times, the ship, with those, and I've got a few people who've also seen a blue light in the eastern sky, diamond light point. And so this, to me, I look at that image and it seems the essence of kindness and beauty, gentleness. So, yeah.
And since I've got you, can we take advantage of this moment just to also quickly delve into, so how can a being also be a ship?
Well, she's like in this particular instance, she's the commander of that ship.
Okay.
So there could be a consciousness ship.
Okay.
But in this case, it's kindness's ship.
Okay, so there's the physical ships and
Yeah.
then the consciousness ships. So the consciousness
Right.
ships are, how would you describe them?
Well, what happens is, in this case, kindness isn't her real name. What happens is when we're interacting with ETs, we always ask that we try to ask the being for a name that is just convenient for us to identify them. In this case, Dr. Greer felt the essence of the being, and it was kindness in this particular situation of Sherry passing. And so what happened is that's the name he designated. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of other understanding that entire ships can be conscious. And we've talked about that. I would recommend that you go to the Gaia series and look at Emery Smith and what he's talking about in terms of his experiences in the underground labs, where the ships actually had the same DNA as the beings who were piloting the ship. And so that's, at the moment, that's probably the most complex understanding that we have that anyone's presented. Okay. As far as, so, but the idea is that although Stephen Greer will talk about how ships have consciousness as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I don't have any particular experience of that, so. Okay. More that you want to know?
Nope, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so on the same 2018, we were in Weed, which is about a half-hour drive away from Mount Shasta. And what happened is that kindness appeared again on another. And in fact, what happened is we were there and kindness appeared. Dr. Greer said kindness was just there. She just flashed in. And then it was Dawn Turner from Nanaimo who said, "Do it again," out loud. And we all happened to look. And I saw this bright flash of light. And what I saw in front of it was something like this, which was, there was a black sun in front of the white light, which is all that the only way I can describe it. And that has a lot of implications for a lot of people in terms of technology development, especially in Germany during the Second World War and stuff. And so I would highly recommend that you read the books of Dr. Joseph Farrell if you need to understand more about that. But I'm very much in covering his work, and so to me it had a lot of meaning along that was like a signal for me to really pay attention to that material.
And was that something that you particularly saw that others did not?
Yes, exactly. I saw it. Nobody else commented on it. But when you see things and you observe things, you're supposed to share what you've seen, and so you say it out loud. I just saw a black sun in front of that flash that we all witnessed just now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my most compelling experience. I'll give a lot of details on it, but this is just a flash of what happened. This is also available on the internet. So this is Tiger Tail Beach on Marco Island in Florida. And what's happening, it looks like maybe it was Emery filming through a night vision camera. But what's happening is this is like a piezoelectric effect that's just sort of flashed on the sand and flashed out, and somebody luckily caught it. I believe it was Emery. And so I'm going to talk a lot about this. It was probably the most compelling experience I've had. And here's another one. This was in 2014, and these are little jewels and you can kind of see a bit of a trail of red between them, and it's also in a in kind of a circular motion. So what happened with those is that this was, to me, I took several photographs, and it was jumping around in different places in each photograph. And I just assumed it was a ship, because you had to zoom in, and they were distorted. That's actually the clearest image of it. And I presented it as a ship that had appeared, but I still wasn't sure. And then on the very last evening, we were directed to look at a part of the sky, and we all looked, and then I saw it with my naked eye. I saw it blip in and blip out. So that's how a lot of these things happen. So they're just like, I've seen golden orbs come in, go out. Diamond points of light go in and go out. And so that's when I say it's a few seconds of amazing. It's like, I see it and I say, wow, that was just for me. And then Dr. Greer will say, did anybody see that golden orb just above the tree like that? I go, yes, I did. Or I just saw a diamond point of light, and Dr. Greer will say, yes, I saw it too. So that's how you know when you're seeing extraordinary stuff. Now I'm just going to point, last summer I was in with April Dyck, an artist, and I was conducting a CE5, and this is her impression of what happened. I don't know if that's her or me that's sitting there, but she saw two ET beings come in, and they were like lines of electricity, golden energy, and they just blipped in and blipped out. And so she painted that, and of course there's the starry sky above. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right, so how long do you want these to be?
As long as you
Okay.
feel
all right.
necessary. Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to give kind of an overview. I want to show the images so you have a sense rather than just talking. People get bored with that. But okay, so the most outstanding experience I had was in April of 2012, Marco Island, Florida. Emery Smith was there. We were on a break, and what happened is Emery's taking pictures out at sea, and he says, Deb, come and have a look at this. And I go and I have a look, and it's a dashed line across the sky that's arcing. And then behind us, Ricky Butterfast says, that ship that just came out of the ocean is now landed over there in the shrubs, and there's ETs getting off the ship. And then Dr. Greer said, everybody stay here. And he walks about 100 feet, and he's in the shrubs. He kneels down. He's 6'4", so he kneels down, and he holds his arms out because he's welcoming the ETs. He sees them. We're not seeing them. But then we start to see these piezoelectric effects on the sand, like these little fireworks going off. And then that goes on for about 20 minutes where he's welcoming them. And then what happens is he signals that the 22 people in our training group are welcome to approach. And so we sit down in a line along the sand, and I just go into meditation mode and say, please appear in the physical so that we can all witness this. And that does not happen. And I realized it wasn't going to happen because we had people who are absolute beginners. This was their very first contact experience. We had one woman who was 6 months pregnant. And so we're all in a line, and Dr. Greer's maybe 10, 15 feet away, and there's different piezoelectric effects happening. Now, this Tiger Tail Beach is several miles long, and we've got perfect view of everything. But what happens is that these piezoelectric effects were only happening in this area and within the context of this narrative that was unfolding.
And what's piezoelectric?
It's like piezoelectric sand quartz will have electric like electricity, sparks and stuff. You'll see it. So that's what it looked like. The only word I have to explain it. It looked like little fireworks on the sand happening. So it was in response to something that the ET beings were doing.
Sorry.
Okay, so what happened is that we're all sitting there waiting and just allowing this to unfold. And then what happens is that light snake that I saw in the previous, or showed in the previous image that appeared in Boca Raton, It appeared in front of the people about 2.5 feet above the sand, about 5 inches tall, and there was a ridge, like a yellow ridge. And it just kind of zipped down the entire group and went into this one woman's heart chakra. And her explanation was, I just wanted to hug them. And we all witnessed that. Everybody saw that. And what happened is that some people were starting to hyperventilate and get a little bit, like, because it was sort of pushing. I like to say that the ETs will push you out of your comfort zone, but they're not going to push you over the edge. And so some people were starting to reach the edge. And so it all dialed down. And then we sort of thought that was amazing, and we went back to the rest of the contact experience we like to finish around 1:30 a.m. in the morning. So what was the pattern is that there were multiple witnesses. Multiple people were seeing different pieces of it. And it was a narrative that was unfolding. And then in the end, we all saw what happened. We all witnessed it. So that was the most extraordinary thing that I've seen happen. Okay.
Wow, very cool.
Yes. Now, the other things that happened, that's the pattern. Multiple witnesses, a narrative that's unfolding, and we all witness it. But it's happened in other places. Now, you've interviewed Lois Garay as well. I think she's told you about the extraordinary healing, and it was a group of 16 or 20 people at her place, and there was extraordinary things happening. But the extraordinary story I want to talk about happened about 3 weeks later. I was at a conference not far from here in Salmon Arm, and I was kind of frustrated with the president. The president of the organization was choosing to give a really long talk, and I wanted to go for dinner with my friends. And so it was kind of boring, and my friends would never get up and leave to go to a presentation. So what happened is that I started saying, okay, the president was talking about, manifest your own destiny. And I thought, okay, I want you to stop talking so I can go I just started call upon my higher self, stop this talking so I can go to dinner with my friends. Nope, didn't happen, nothing. I said, well, somebody once told me I was a commander of an ET ship. And so okay, ETs, I command you to appear and end this transmission. And within 30 seconds, she said, well, that appears to be all I have to say. And she said, we're done for today. And I went, yay. And it's like, okay, friends, let's go. Well, Lois was at the back of the room. And she came up to me. So this was Saturday afternoon where this was happening. And then Sunday morning, she comes up to me and she says, Deb, why did the ETs show up yesterday afternoon? I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I was sitting at the back of the room and I could kind of feel that they were coming in. And I looked over and there was a whole bunch of them. They sort of walked in and she said, I laughed at them. And I said, what are you guys doing here? And they ignored me. And then the president stopped speaking. And then they all kind of faded away. So all I can say is that my friendship with Lois it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship between Lois and I. And I think that moment that was signaling us that we were supposed to be working together on this. So that's how it happened. But again, multiple multiple witnesses, it's unfolding, and you don't necessarily know it until the next day, what's happened. Okay. All right. So in terms of her healing session, I want to say there was a number of people, 16 or 20 people there. A number of them could see wavy energies of ETs that were about 3 to 4 feet high. And I would get the message that people could get up and move into the center of the circle, and they could merge with an ET in the center of the circle. And so there's only 4 or 5 people who chose to do that. So they'd get up, they'd walk into the center of the circle, and then Lois or someone else would say, move 6 inches to your right. Mm-hmm. And they would move 6 inches to the right, and then they were merged. And not only all of us would feel the energy circle around when that happened. So that depended on multiple people cooperating. So that was an extraordinary thing. I've never seen anything like it since.
Can you quickly go into what is emerging?
Merging is when what often happens, one of the go to another, here's my next story where I'll talk about merging. So I was here in my living room in January of 2012. So Lois had called me and said they wanted to have a CE5 in the middle of winter in the Okanagan. And so here they were in my living room. I wasn't sure I was going to have enough room. And so I had people sitting around, and I had the thermostat was turned up to 75. Should have been warm enough. But one person, Victoria, was freezing and shivering with cold. She was just freezing. He's just like, oh. And so I went and got her blankets. I'm sorry, you're cold. Here you go. And then we started the session. Almost immediately, Lois grabbed the tri-field meter and she put it between herself. She was sitting there, and Larry was sitting there, and the tri-field meter started signaling. And I said, well, what have you got there, Lois? And she said, there's an ET being 5 foot tall, pinkish skin. And we asked for a name, and the name Kite came back. And so he's here right now. And then what is the purpose for being here? Well, Larry, who was sitting right there, said, I'm receiving a healing right now. I can't talk about it. I'm too immersed in this. So what happened is we continued on with the meditation, and I got a message to tell the group, if you're really cold, merge with the ET being and you will warm up. And Victoria had said, I just did that just before you said that. And so she was warming up. The idea, I asked Dr. Greer about this, and he said that when an ET is ready to merge with you, what they want to do is come and be inside your body, inside your consciousness. They want to be able to see through your eyes, feel what it's like to have a human body. But if they're right outside your body, they are there interdimensionally. So they have trans-dimensional technology, which is sucking the heat out of the space around you. So that's why you get physically cold. And if you allow yourself to merge, then you're merged, and what's happening is you're now inside their technology, and so you don't feel that cold anymore. So when I just talked about Marco Island, Florida, it was, of course, April, so it's like 75, 80 degrees at night. So the Doug Parker, who you know from New Zealand, came up to me and said, I'm just freezing cold. I don't understand why. And I said, allow yourself to merge with the ET that's ready to merge with you. And he sort of walked away, and he came back and he said, worked. His head warmed up. Okay. So more questions?
No, that's good.
Okay. All right. So that was my living room. So that was the 2 stories. So that was 4 stories I've told so far. The 5th story is Mara Lake with Lois again. She's living out in Mara Lake, north of here. And she's got my laser. And she says, I've just got a message, a psychic message, that we're supposed to look at this part of the sky right now. So, okay, let's look. And within 30 seconds, we had this shooting out of a portal over the ridge that we decided. It was this shower of white light. And in front of it was about 1 inch of a light that was a lightship. And then it just continued on and disappeared. And so, again, multiple witnesses, a narrative that's unfolding. We sort of pay attention to the messages, and then we have this extraordinary experience. Well, the next day, she's on Facebook. We're in Mara Lake, about 100 kilometers south, and it went for our point of view, it went from east to west. Somebody in Kelowna saw the exact same thing at the same time, but it was going from west to east. And then she had a contact in Edgemont or Edgewood, I think. And what happened is they did not see anything going across the sky, but they saw something went across the sky that lit up the whole area around the time. Now, when you connect those points, it's an equilateral triangle, which is this symbol for CSETI, right?
Yeah.
So it's also important in terms of free energy. The free energy devices need to generate a field that is in that shape.
Oh.
So it's significant on a lot of levels. So, okay. So that was Mara Lake with Lois again.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So Tana's house. This was another situation of above us. We saw right above us, directly above us. If you hold your hand out at arm's length and make about 1 inch, This is right up in the sky, a light going across the sky, south to north. And each of us saw a different color around the light. I saw it as yellow on the inside with red around. And other people saw purples and blues and greens. And what happened is somebody in our group, her name is Shay, she got a huge download and was like shaking and shivering the whole time in response to it. And she understood that there was some kind of energetic transformation happening as a result of this experience, which is also very common. But again, multiple witnesses, a narrative that's unfolding. Okay. All right, so I think I've already explained this one about Oracle, Arizona, with the being with the triangle pink head and the white robe. That's going to be a very big part of Stephen Greer's next documentary on contact, so you're going to get lots of opportunity to hear more about that. And then I talked about my Joshua tree with the jewel ship with the lights blinking in and blinking out and being significant to me. This is all these photographs are on my website as well, so, and my WordPress documentary. I do want to talk about Sand Flats and Mount Shasta. And this was last summer in Mount Shasta, so July of 2018. So we're all in a circle at Sand Flats, and if you ever go to Mount Shasta, you need to make sure you go to Sand Flats because it's a very active area. So, of course, California's had a problem with fires. And we were there from like Monday to Friday night, I think. And what happened is the first, like a Monday and a Wednesday night, people were coming up and they had built huge campfires. And I'm thinking, don't they have a fire ban here? It's like, what's going on? And in fact, driving to Mount Shasta, there was like 10 kilometers of road where about a mile on either side, it had already just burned out and melted the railings and everything. It's like, what's going on here? Why don't they? Well, by the end of the week, they did have a fire ban on it. But what was alarming on, I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday night, we were all sitting in a circle, and and three of us happened to be looking in a certain direction. And what we saw was this triangle shape coming in. Some people saw it rotating. I saw it as green with yellow inside, but it had like incendiary things like fireworks coming off of it, red incendiary things. And it was coming down and it landed in the trees maybe about 500 yards from us. And what happened is at the point, and it sort of came down quickly, and then at the point where it would have hit the ground, there was like two domes of light, boom, and then a lightquake happened where it lit up everything. So how we understand that is that the ship coming in was physical and it needed to go trans-dimensional in order to enter the ground, so it can go through the ground. But I just thought it was like maybe a firework that was going to light the forest on fire. And so three of us saw this, and they saw the green color surrounding the triangle. On the other side of the circle, people were facing that. They saw the same thing, but it was blue. So what happened is that we all saw, multiple witnesses, we all saw it. It was maybe a little bit different. Some people saw it as rotating. I didn't see that. But it was, and that I was worried that it was going to catch on fire. Nothing caught on fire until after our training was over, and then all of California seemed to light up. There were huge fires there last year, unfortunately. But so that was Sand Flats. It's very active, and that's also that ship, that image I showed from Australia with the Lightship with the little antenna. In 2009, we were on Sand Flats. A car drives into the area and parks. That's not part of our group at around 10:30 at night. And ordinarily, I do not have permission to take out my night vision goggles. So what happened is this was a security issue, so I'm given permission to take out my night vision goggles because I've got a big ultraviolet the ultraviolet light shines like a big beam, and we could watch the people. As I'm looking through this, one of those ships came down with, again, the incendiary, but it's in the infrared. I think it's infrared. IR. Yeah, so it's infrared, not ultraviolet. So it's infrared, and it's coming down with the incendiary, and it's kind of boop, 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 and it dips. And then behind me, Stephen Greer says, a ship just came down and landed beside that car that's in there that's a security issue. And he has celestial vision because of his years of doing transcendental meditation. So he saw it with the naked eye. I had to be looking through the night vision in order to see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you were saying earlier, just to clarify, that you had kind of security clearance, it was from Dr. Queer.
Right, exactly.
Not everyone's allowed to use equipment.
Right. There's very often video cameras that are infrared video cameras, and so you can't have any extra lights on. And in particular with these binoculars, you push a button and they do like this beam of infrared. So they're meant for surveillance and security. So the human eye cannot detect infrared. So what's happening is, suppose you're looking for poachers of salmon on the Columbia River, you can see them, but they can't see you, and you've turned the big beam on. But it's a problem if you're recording video. And you're lighting up the whole, like you're putting big spotlights on the area, and you can't do it, so you have to get permission to do it. Yeah. Okay, so then the final thing, I just want to talk about one of my first trainings was in 2009 at CSETI, and we were in Crestone, Colorado, and we go out for a day-long trip out to the Sand Dunes National Monument, which is a very active area, lots of mythology about ant people, etc. Emery Smith has talked about this as well. But we were up at Zapata Falls, which is a forestry site that overlooks the Sand Dunes National Monument. And so what's going on is we have a break. Everybody needs to go to pee break, and they have a big outhouse there. So we'll go out to the outhouse. And when you're on a training with Stephen Greer, he sees a lot, but he only ever talks about 10% of what he sees because of his celestial vision. So what he's saying, did anybody see that? There was an orb right there. It was about 12 inches across. Did anybody else? And I'm the only person who saw that. It's ongoing. It never stops. So there I am at the outhouse. I come out of the outhouse, and what I see, about 10 feet away, 10 feet up, there's a big golden ball and a concentric ring. And all I can say is it explodes into me. And all I can think of to say, does anybody else see that? Am I the only one? There was nobody else. I was there by myself. So that was just a subjective, totally just be me by myself. But when I'm leading my own groups, I often talk about the golden ball in the heart chakra, and we create a ring of golden energy around each other. And if you listen carefully to Stephen Greer's meditations, he talks about the same thing. It's also in there. So those are my 10 best.
Those are awesome, Deb. That's so great. Thank you. I'm going to pop my head in here. I guess what I'm really getting from all of that is that it's such a collaborative experience, and that particularly those two things that you were talking about, the multiple witnesses and the unfolding of the narrative, is, if somebody out there is really interested in having a really stellar sighting, it sounds like you have to be
coherent,
collaborative, working together, and to be able to voice what your experience is so that everything can thus unfold, so that everybody's got, I think you called it once, like puzzle pieces?
Yeah, everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deb. I'm so appreciative that you came on, and I'll put links to Deb's website, OCSETI. OCSETI. OCSETI.org. You'll get right to it. Okanagan CSETI. Yep. So we'll put the links in there, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.